The Hold Fast Social Club presents So You're Kinda a Big Deal with your hosts, Sean Headley and Dave Allen.
We had taken more photos. Like Sacred Heart, I have shitty ass ones. Nothing, man. I wish I had one for Shawn. All I got is Chad. That's all I got of Shawn. Renovating the location's crazy. That's him in there. I think he's fingering, probably. A little bit of Shawn there. Maybe. I think that's definitely Shawn, Blair, and Chad. Pretty cool, eh?
Wow. Wild in the streets. Wild in the streets. Rob Hope, how's it going, buddy?
Yeah, we're recording.
We're fucking recording.
I've been looking forward to it.
Awesome, man. Well, so, because you are kind of a big deal, Tell us all about yourself.
I wanted to talk first, Sean, about I think it was Luna's episode where you said that I showed up without a portfolio and made it up as I went. And I'm like, fuck, he knew. I was busted right there. So it's all kind of foggy to me now because we're all kind of pushing 50. I want to know what you guys remembered about those days and kind of revisit that. Because you know what, you were kind of right. I did kind of. I had a portfolio, but I had to burn it, kill some people, and dismember a couple people. But I got the job. But you knew.
Well, it was Adam that ended up telling me that, he had a couple pictures. It wasn't much. He said that something, you lost your portfolio or something happened to it or whatever. And
I didn't have photos of everything. That's what it was.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So you started there a little after, right? We weren't there right at the same time. It was me, Trent Perry, and I think Dave Nicholson was there too.
Yeah, and then so when I came out for a guest spot originally, and Trent actually had just left.
Right.
So I've never worked with Trent. So then it was Chad Woodley had moved in instead of Trent, and then I came
right.
A few months later.
What
95.
What are we talking? 95.
15th, 95. Crazy. That was the Ides of March for me. Scary, crazy day. I'll never forget that.
Yeah, and I would have. Yeah, and then I would have came in a little later in the summer.
Right.
And then
crazy.
Yeah, that's funny because Trent was such a powerhouse tattooer. You kind of were his replacement. Yeah. You kind of came in and filled that void.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think I remember because Adam was, of course, gone, and Glenn and Blair had taken over. Glenn came to me. He was like, there's not going to be any space for you when Trent comes back. And I was like, yeah, that's cool because I was going to be tattooing out of Piercer Bear. Yeah. Him and Steve Simons. They pierced together in Gastown, and I was just going to work out of their space. And then a couple weeks had gone by. Chad went back to Winnipeg for Christmas, so it was just me, you, and Nicholson. Right. And then Glenn just one day was just like, yeah, so Trent's not coming back, so you can just stay. And I was like, okay.
Right.
That's it. That's how I stayed at Sacred Heart. Yeah, I guess Trent wanted a higher percentage than what Glenn was willing to give him.
Oh, really? Well, he would have deserved it because he was definitely taking the bull by the horns back then.
Yeah, he was
for sure. He was the first guy working with him. Working at Sacred Heart was scary for me because, as you know, I was winging it, and
Yeah.
Trent was the guy who was like head down. I think it was like a big Cali leg piece, like 8 hours straight, head down, just pounded out a massive full color piece in one go. He was always tinkering with machines, finding new configurations for needles and changing things up. Like he was like search and destroy tattooing when I started there. And it was scary for me too. Just a story I remember. I had to learn how to use a mag because I showed up with 6 flats, and Adam was like, "We don't use those in the 90s." And I remember doing a mountain bike bug on a guy's leg like this big. It took me an hour. In the same time, Trent had tattooed like the biggest word in the dictionary across a guy's stomach.
So you haven't.
They both left at the same time.
You haven't really sped up.
And they both paid.
You haven't really sped up in 30 years.
What's
that? Your pace is still the same. 30 years later.
I got a little bit of the tattooer white goatee coming in. I'm catching up. I'm catching up.
Yeah. Oh man, that's funny. Yeah, Trent. I wish I would have got to work with Trent. I just remember always seeing his work and just being like,
yeah,
like he was just bringing such a different flavor so early on. You know, like really like Guyatchison like inspired like cover ups and just real heavy bold work and stuff. Yeah, his shit was super.
Yeah, and I think he was part. Yeah. He opened Anarchy before that, and another thing that intimidated me because I didn't know how to tell. I'm just working off the tip. Those guys, they had like and where they worked off the tips, they had like an inch of needle sticking out of that thing, right? And it was kind of intimidating for sure.
Yeah.
I just want to back up a bit. We got off to the races pretty hot there. Just so everybody knows, we're interviewing Rob Hope. Rob Hope. He works in Maple Ridge. He's got his own private studio. He's a hell of a tattooer. We've all known him for a long time. He's probably every tattooer's favorite tattooer you never heard of. He's a ghost. And if you haven't guessed already, he worked at Sacred Heart with Shawn way back in the day, early in his career. So I just want to give some context to what we're fucking talking about here. I got held accountable. I got held accountable after the last couple of podcasts that we're not putting shit into context. Go ahead, shoot, go.
It's hard, right? It's hard because we're interviewing like friends who are excited to talk to them, and we
of course
know some pieces of the story, so we gotta remember to give all the pieces.
Yeah.
So when you started at Sacred Heart, I never forget actually when you were already at Sacred Heart, I had joined you and stuff, and then finding out where you lived.
Yeah.
I don't think people understand. Like people are like, I drive to work or whatever. It's like you literally drove a fucking city every morning.
Yeah, and plus I also had to canoe, swim, and climb a mountain. Just to get
across the Fraser. That was before they put the bridge in.
But to be honest with you, when I started at Sacred Heart, I lost my license, so I was busing, and it was a 2.5 hour bus ride just to get there. Which was because it was such a big deal. It was such a big deal to be able to tattoo that it was definitely no problem.
Yeah,
that's insane. I remember you telling me stories about biking in and driving into Dutchies for so many years, and that was an hour and a half. 2.5 hours is like that's got to be some kind of record for a tattooer commuting to work.
Part of living.
Well,
most tattooers don't have cars that live in a city or work in a city, right?
Well, I drove for a long time from Edmonton to Red Deer, which is basically 2 hours each way, but pretty open road, right? Like that, it's pretty easy drive. Like Rob's driving from Maple Ridge through the Tri-Cities, basically through Vancouver into Kitsilano.
One of the good things, though, also I was riding, so it was a motorcycle whenever you could, so it wasn't bad. And of course, you get into a lot of trouble as well. But
how many times have you lost your license, Rob?
I shouldn't say that here, but I probably don't have many chances left. Bikes, just bikes.
So, I want to know how you started tattooing. Like we know how you got to Sacred Heart, but I think your entry into tattooing was pretty punk rock, a lot like Nat from Montreal.
Yeah, no, I just showed up at Sacred Heart and I was a professional tattooer that day. Or so I thought.
That's it, eh?
Or so I thought.
No backstory.
And I wonder too, Shawn, like, did you show up and look at my book and you're like, what's up with this guy, man? Come on,
No, I remember seeing the fucking tattoo that you did on yourself, and I was just like, okay, this isn't fair.
Yeah, right. Yeah, anyways, my start was brutal. It's a really bad story. I've never talked about it, or I've never shared it with my peers because it's embarrassing, and it's something I never talked about because I don't want to promote it, right? You would never say online that I made a tattoo machine out of a Walkman motor, but I don't think anyone's going to do that today. You can buy a tattoo machine off Amazon and tattoo your face if you want now. No one cares, but back then I would never promote it. I would never promote it, but yeah, I started tattooing high school, grade 10, so 16. And I drew tons. I knew I was going to be an artist. I drew tons in high school. And there was an older kid there who had the homemade tattoo equipment. And he showed me one day a scorpion that he outlined on his arm. And it looked fucking amazing. Like solid scorpion on his arm. And I had a friend, Evan, if I can say names, eh? My buddy Evan. My buddy Evan.
Yeah, throw him under the bus.
Bit of an electrical genius guy. And he saw the tattoo machine. He's the kind of guy that could install car stereos before he even had a car, right? He actually, in his car, he had toggle switches in the dash that ignited Roman candles under the bumper so he could drive around shooting people with Roman candles. Like, kind of a crazy guy. Anyways, he saw the tattoo machine.
Kids were so crazy.
Yeah, that's what you had to do to stay excited out there. Yeah, you had to do stuff like that. But he saw the tattoo machine, and within a week, he had one built, and there we were. We were tattooing each other with it, and no ambition to be a tattooer. We didn't know anything about the tattoo world. No one had even seen a tattoo magazine, right? We're just like lower class, underage kids tattooing each other.
Were you playing in a band at that time? Were you in? We were kind of playing
music. Yeah, that was also starting as well. Which also, of course, led to that was our flash back in the day would have been, the Circle Jerks DRI guy or anything like that. Yeah. Misfits, Skull, Sam Hain Skull, like punk rock and metal had so much to offer tattooing. It's a natural translation, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, anyways, we would tattoo behind the school in a grass field. And keep in mind, not to say I'm ahead of my time, but it was a rotary motor with battery-powered rotary machine. That's what I started out with.
Yeah.
But we literally tattooed in the dirt behind the school. There's other places. There was time where we had no power and it was dark, so you could go uptown to Value Village. There was a light that was on 24/7 there, and we a couple times tattooed outside Value Village and Maple Ridge under the light there. So it was
I told somebody that story, and I thought it was a gas station. So I'm glad that you clarified it was a Value
Village. That was kind of a hangout a little bit too, right? Yeah. Anyway, so super, super rough beginnings. I did actually. I would like to say I did fine tune it enough. Like the rotary machine, you guys are familiar with those? How that works?
Oh yeah.
Just to explain for any younger people that might watch, because it's a thing of the past now. I'm sure, maybe in prison, but you can't get a Walkman in there. But it was a rotary motor. Then you put like a 3/16 bolt on top of the shaft of the motor. Then you would put a post off center on that. And then you got a thing that's going back and forth. And then to that, you would you unwind the E string of a bass guitar. You keep the loop at the end, and that goes on that post. And now back then you would sharpen the guitar string and burn it with a lighter and melt it through the end of a Bic pen. And now you've got your tattoo machine. So I did that for quite a year, like 1989, 1990 is when we started. And I did that. I hated tattooing because it was a problem every time. The electrical problems, run out of batteries, run out of ink, the needle would fall apart. But by the end, I had it kind of fine-tuned to, you remember the old Powell Peralta 3 skateboard wheels, those giant 85A skateboard wheels? Yeah. There's enough urethane there where I could put a Lady Remington motor into that urethane, and even had enough to pressure fit a mechanical pencil into the end. And that pencil also had different tips, like 0.3, 0.5, 0.7. So you could solder on a needle now and have different gauge needles. And it actually, the shading started to work pretty good. The fine needle was good. The big needle, leave a good scar. So anyways, that's my terrible start. And
I remember you sharing a story about tattooing in your bedroom and your parents walking in.
Yeah. There's a picture of that out there too. Actually, there's actually like 5 of us on my one little bed, and if anyone came in, we're like 16. If anyone came in, you could put the tattoo machine down the side, and it happened where my dad walked in, and tattoo machine down the side, and it's just 5 guys sitting on the bed looking at him.
Whose back piece was it you did in Stanley Park?
No, I don't know if I did that.
Didn't you do that? Didn't you? Who has the tree back piece?
Oh, that was my friend Jamie, and that was right. That was right as I started at Sacred Heart too. Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got pictures of this stuff, so I'll make sure I share it in the.
Yeah, absolutely. I just saw that old pitch of the Life Short, Skate Faster that you just posted up, man. That's such a classic.
Yeah, and Mish was a little younger than us, so he was like 16 when he started that back piece, which is pretty. And his brother Dwight as well. He also did a full back piece of a peace sign in leaves, like for only tattoo.
I remember that one.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah,
I remember that one. Yeah. I'll never forget Mish. First guy I ever saw with a neck beard.
Mish is legendary. That guy's awesome.
Yeah,
Love that guy.
I had some good friends. I had some close friends that were like, "Fuck, do my whole back," and luckily they turned out okay. There was the McLean brothers too. Like Mick, he got a bat going from his knee to his toes, and his brother Quag, he hated Elvis. He got an Elvis this big being impaled by the Slayer swords on the back of the leg. Like, I had no shortage of really fun subject matter right off the bat, and that was it was scary. It was scary when I started at Sacred Heart because all of a sudden I had to do like a Celtic knot this big, no shading, just outline, and it was like, oh fuck, you're not just shading something into place anymore. You actually technically pull up my socks there and learn to use new equipment.
Yeah. So were you really artistic before you started tattooing, or did that come out of you while you started fucking around with the tattoo?
No, I drew ever since I was like a baby. Like every kid, you start with dinosaurs, then fish, then animals, birds, stuff for a while.
You stopped at birds.
I drew my whole life, and then it changed maybe around 11 or 12. I would say it would have been the Grim Reaper album cover. Looking back at influences, heavy metal at 11 and 12, Grim Reaper album cover, the Slayer album cover, Celtic Frost with the H.R. Geiger. Then it was like art just took a different direction.
Yeah.
And you guys will probably remember too, jean jackets, like memorizing the Judas Priest logo or Twisted Sister or any of those.
Totally.
I had a black umbrella that I took to school that had every band Jiffy marker on it. Anything you could drift Jiffy marker, you did. So that was a change. That's where everything started, looking back, kind of headed towards tattooing.
For younger people, a Jiffy marker was long before the Sharpie.
Really? We're not that old. Come on. Oh yeah, I guess people don't use pens anymore, pencils.
No, we're not that old, but everything changes so much faster now.
Okay, so let's get back to Sacred Heart because there's lots of good stories there. So you're tattooing at Sacred Heart and you're realizing. No, I got all the questions because I wasn't there that era at all. I'm curious what it was like to walk into a shop where you've bullshitted your way in, and you have some natural ability, but now you have to learn to use an actual tattoo machine and tattoo on strangers in front of other tattooers.
Yeah, I'll never forget that first day. And thank you, Adam Sky, forever he took a chance, right? Clearly took a chance that maybe I could do it. And it was a mutual friend, Chantel. She was friends of Adam at the end of this is 94. 94, I actually got a Spalding pack from another guy that was tattooing and didn't want to do it and sold it. So friends pitched in. We got the Spalding pack in 94, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh fuck, this does align. You touch the skin, it registers, right? So that was the year where I did a lot of work and put together a portfolio. And it was our mutual friend Chantel that told Adam about this guy that was tattooing in the dirt out in the bush. And I went down and he gave me the job. So first day I had the bus there. I did 5 tattoos right off the bat. And before that, I would tattoo maybe once a month if I had to. And yeah, it was a scorpion, an eagle, a Celtic piece, which I know Adam must have helped me out afterwards with. I can't remember the other two, but that day I left after 5 tattoos with $200 in my pocket. And I was like, you know, back then I was like $10 an hour before tax, like maybe making $80 a day at my previous job. And I left with $200, and I walked down from Alma down to Broadway to catch the bus, and the bus wasn't there, and I just fucking ran. I ran like all the way to McDonald's. Money, it's like I could have quit right then and there, and it would have been good for a month, you know. And so that was pretty crazy. And then that night I went home and I was like, I'm going to do this again. It's possible that I'm going to do this for the rest of my life? And it has not stopped a second since that day. So that brings me back to Sacred Heart too, where Sacred Heart it had some lulls, but then there was also like, because it was close to the university, there was student loan week or something. And there was weeks where I remember Shawn tattooing like, what was it, like 13 tattoos in one day. We had a little bit of competitiveness going, and you blasted out like 13 tattoos, like one after another after another. You could stay there till midnight if you wanted, right?
Oh, amazing. Yeah. And, you know, Adam Sky, that opened Sacred Heart, it's not surprising that he would have given you that chance, because his background getting into tattooing was very similar.
Same, yeah.
You know, it wasn't any kind of structured mentorship or anything like that. It was, you know, on the streets, pretty wild. And
because there was no other option.
I could see why.
Right? You could not, no matter how you presented yourself or what art where you walked, you could not do that at a regular shop. You couldn't walk in and be like, hey, I'm interested in, I'm drawing. You know, you'd get kicked out in a second.
There's probably 8 tattoo shops in BC back then, like the whole province, and 8 guys are going to fucking shoot you down right away.
Literally.
Like, like you punk kid, get the fuck out of here. So you might get an ass whooping.
Yeah. I did. I called a couple shops before I met Adam. I called a couple shops, and I got like, you're barking up the wrong tree, mate. Click, hang up. I did have, we did a little espionage where I went into I got a couple tattoos. I'm remembering that. And I had a friend sent in who told the guy about me, and he was like, oh yeah, tell him to come down. We'll break his fucking arms. And that was it. Silence the tattoo. And it was good too. It was like, oh, you know what? Don't be telling people you're tattooing. Don't tattoo anyone other than people you know. It kind of got me in check for a second there. And then luckily met Adam, who had already gone that path, taken the lumps, and I got to move right in.
Yeah. No, that shop was really, really instrumental, I think, in a lot of people's careers.
Yeah, and not only that, it was super fun. Like, we were all young and the same age. We went out after work every day, went downtown. It was a blast. That was like such a good time.
Yeah. We're all the same age, but we're also at the same time, we were also different.
Yeah.
Like, not just different style of tattooing, but just things that we were interested in. We were also, like, you know what I mean? Like, when Steve Moore joined, like, with Bill being there, me, you, Michael, Chad, like, we were all very different personalities.
Yeah.
And it worked so well.
It really did, yeah.
You know, and I think over time now, it's like people want to be more around more like-minded people, and then also people that are directly more an influence. Like, you influenced my work indirectly, and that helped me grow. And it didn't change the way I tattoo, but it helped me grow as a tattooer. Mm-hmm. Same with working with Steve or with anybody. But I think a lot of people now, it's like, you know what, I want to tattoo more like this. So I want to be around people who tattoo like that, right? And I think a lot more people kind of create that smaller bubble. And because I think back to us at Sacred Heart, and I'm just like, I don't know how we made it work.
Yeah.
I really don't. Like, I think the reason why it worked tattooing wise is because we never stepped on each other's foot. Mm-hmm. It was like, oh, that's Rob's style. Oh, that's this guy's style. We always had our own clients and stuff, but like, just how we got along, music always being different, everything was so, but it just worked.
Yeah.
It worked so fucking well, you know.
Yeah.
So I have lots of great memories of you.
Well, it had to, because that was the only shop where we could all be present with each other, right?
That's true too. That is very true. Also, where else were we gonna go, right?
Yeah.
Like, I was a fucking deadbeat from Toronto. I wasn't gonna go back to Toronto, so.
Yeah.
You know, Chad was out from Winnipeg.
Yeah. Like, if you're in a small town in the middle of nowhere and you had a BMXer and a skateboarder and a rollerblader and a scooter, they would be friends. It wouldn't happen in the city, but, you know, just we had such a elite little crowd. So.
Yeah. Yeah, very,
Yeah,
very
easy.
true.
So how long were you
Well,
there?
Dave, bring on the questions.
I just did. How long were you there?
I was there only like a year and a half or so. So that happened with, you know what happened there was one day,
It was Chad.
I don't know if
wasn't it?
no, I love Chad. And you know, that was, yeah, it was so cool learning something from everybody, like you were saying there, Shawn, because Chad was like slower and genuinely cared about every tattoo he did. Like he really cared about his tattoos and his clients, right? From Shawn, I learned like, don't pussyfoot around, just get the tattoo, get it done. Like show up and work, you know? And Dave, he had like such dynamic. I remember the Sacred Heart Christmas card, the Santa and a rampant line that he did, where every hook was just like, it was like the Al Hogarth of beard drawing, that Santa card. It was.
Oh yeah, that Dave Nicholson one. I
Yeah.
still have a line drawing of that.
You do?
I do have a line
I'd love to get a copy of that if I could, because that thing influenced me.
If I come across it, I will send you a copy.
To this day, if I'm doing a rampant line, I think of Dave Nicholson and those hooks and the penmanship too, right? So,
dude, anytime I do a rampant line, I just use that one.
Yeah, that's funny. So send me the beard one, because I'm going to use that for every beard I do now. We can send them all to Dave. Thanks, Dave. Thanks.
Oh fuck.
Yeah. Anyways, I was there for like a year and a half, and then one day, I don't know if I should mention names, but I think Trent sent his buddy Todd down to look at my portfolio. John wanted to look at my work. I think he wanted to take my portfolio, but it was like, no, you can't take the portfolio. But there it was like, John's asking to see my work. So that was that kind of put the idea in my head. And at the same time, Bill Baker was there, and he also said, if you have the opportunity to do a guest spot at Dutchman Tattoos, you should definitely go do that. And at the same time, I was struggling bad with tendonitis so much that I had to stop. Like we tattooed so much, I tattooed my way into complete disability on that. I quit then and took a month off. And then when I came back, I went down and met John.
Is that when you started tattooing left-handed?
Yeah.
Rob's left-handed, in case anyone's wondering.
I have an apprentice who's left-handed, and I don't understand how I'm supposed to teach him. Like, it's just, for me, I look at it and I'm like, yeah, that's just all wrong and backwards.
You have to use physical violence. You have to hit him with a stick.
That's what I figured, right? He's also a ginger too, so I just gotta double down.
That's funny.
Fuck.
Yeah. So then, yeah, you ended up at John's because you fucking hated us, and we're like, fuck those guys.
You know what, Shawn? And, backing up, man, I really would like to have gotten tattooed by you by then. And you were like, I remember to this day, you were like, I want to tattoo you, Hope. You were like, I want to hurt you. Do you remember that? This is pre-jiu-jitsu, Shawn, Hammer Hands Headley, where you were like, I want to tattoo you. And it fucking actually scared me. I was like, shit. I don't know, man. He's going to hurt me. And so I never got a tattoo from you. So maybe one day. Now that you got other avenues to vent that.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shit, I totally forgot where I was going. That's just too funny.
Yeah.
So, yeah, anyways, you end up at the Dutchman's.
Yeah.
Who was at the Dutchman's when you first started there?
It was Trent, for sure. And it changed. People changed quickly, right? People always change quickly. Trent was there for sure, and I believe soon after was Carrie, and then soon after that, Carrie Irvine, amazing tattooer, rest in peace. And then soon after that, it was Clint Danroth and Louise, and even Dustin.
Yeah, that was a solid crew you guys had in there. That was in the small shop up on New West. What street was that on?
20th Street.
20th, yeah. That was a tiny little sweat factory. Like, I remember going in there the first time and being like, how do they fit everybody in here? And then the drawing room in the back was like, how do they draw in here? Like, they're on top of each other.
There was no drawing room in the back. That was added on later. Yeah, it was even smaller. Crazy. I had to punch through into the neighboring unit. So
yeah, it was
pretty cool. It was nice to that's where we all kind of started to really kind of learn stuff in a mentorship way, because John was usually able to sit down and like help us out with things, and give honest critiques,
What was that dynamic? How different was that working in that environment where you go from like Sacred Heart was pretty wild and there's a bunch of feral kids working together to having a mentor? What was that like as a tattooer?
Well, for me, it was what I needed, because as you now know, I never did know what I was doing. I never learned to tattoo. So you figure it out, right? I learned a lot from Sacred Heart right then and there, right? I learned really quickly.
Yeah.
But then it was cool to actually work with John and everyone else who knew what they were doing and actually be able to figure things out a little better. And not only that, Dutchman was more about the drawing and the art side of things as well, which is where I felt like I fit in pretty good with that, because that was important to me.
Yeah.
And
it seemed like a really...
Is tattooing an art or a craft?
Famous old argument.
And me and Bill were always like, it's a craft, and Rob would be like, it's art.
Yeah. I think I was wrong. I was wrong, actually. Looking back, a lot of the...
I think it's just more fun because the guys that believe it's art are just way more sensitive. So it's always just more
right.
fun to be like,
I'm an artist. Yeah. Well, looking back, if you really want to attempt art in tattooing, like watercolors and things like that, it actually does fail. And in the end, you kind of do need a line or contrast of some kind. So, yeah, a lot of the art actually failed. So you guys were right.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Not hard. Not hard, never was.
I always found it interesting that Dutchies was set up with a mentor. And it's not that John was turning out apprentices, but he was attracting young people that were like yourself and Dustin Crouch and Clint Danroth and guys like that could really draw and tattoo, and then mentoring them to a much higher level. It's not something you see as much today. Like that's a really fascinating concept. What was the pressure like going in there every day? Because everybody was working to like get as good as possible, like chasing John all the time.
It was, it was just a whirlwind, right? The shop was so busy. I don't think we even have time to consider that. Same thing, like everyone that went there was serious, because it wasn't a walk-in shop. You had to bus or drive out to the middle of nowhere to go there. So basically everyone that showed up was pretty serious about getting some serious work usually, right? And I know John didn't really seek that out more than everyone else kind of would go to him, right? Not just us young guys, but there was also a lot of I met a lot of other tattooers through that shop, like Cliff Clayton, Mauricio, there's like a lot of guys came through there. So it was a pretty cool experience that way.
Yeah, no kidding. That place is a landmark on the West Coast tattooing, for sure. Yeah. Give us a list of people you worked with there.
Okay. I started out with Trent, Carey, and then Clint and Dustin and Louise came by. That was the first shop.
Let's get last names in there too, because most people watching us may or may not
just
know
us?
who you're talking. Yeah, it's not just the three of us.
I feel like we're just having a little conversation.
There might be 5 people that watch this.
Right.
But one of them might not know who Louise is or who
I'm not going to remember
Clint is.
Everybody, of course, because it's a long time ago. But yeah, Trent Perry, Carey Irvine, and then Clint Danroth came aboard, Dustin Crouch, Louise Blackstone. I know I'm going to forget somebody in there. And then towards the end, actually, Dave Nicholson and Ian came and from Highlander Tattoo.
Was Piotr regular there too? Was he not?
Nope.
Piotr Barker?
No, I met him through there, but Piotr didn't work there. I think.
Oh, okay.
That was at New World.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was at the end. It was Dave and Ian, and then John moved to the new shop. They ran that, ex-Highlander, and then in the new shop, that's when we had more chairs, and Jesse Young came in, Jesse Dicey. That's when everyone else, Ryan Halter. That's when everyone else showed up, and lots of guest artists, just tons of cool people that came through, and that was always kept it. You're always like, someone's always looking over your shoulder to see what you're doing that day and stuff, so you're always kind of on your toes and trying to do your best stuff. Yeah, I met a lot of cool people through there, for sure.
And there was a lot of...
My favorite guy, meeting Mauricio was pretty cool.
Yeah, no doubt. That guy's
he was pretty cool. But then there was also so many fun people that came through there as well, right? You know.
Who was your least favorite person to work with?
I'm sitting right here. So careful. You're in the other room. I can hear you.
Pull one out of the hat as a joke. Even as a joke, I can't picture it. There was nobody. There was nobody.
No.
Fuck. that was such a fun shop to visit. The hijinks in there was crazy. Dustin used to tell me stories about there's that famous picture of Dustin walking down the street with the gay cowboy naked on his back.
I still have the cowboy.
No idea that's been taped to his back.
I've got the cowboy still here. I'll keep it forever. I might get a tattoo of it.
I'll do it.
Yeah. Dustin was a great guy to work with because back then, again, it was pretty crazy. And him and I would show up super early, like before 9 o'clock quite often. And we had hours together every morning before the shop opened where we got to talk about everything that happened the day before, what was going to go on that day. There was a lot of cool mentorship between us in the mornings, the calm before the storm kind of thing. So that was a great time with Dustin.
Yeah, it's sad that he's gone. Yeah, that was such a great shop. I'd go down to visit, and there'd always end up being some other tattooer floating around who just happened to be in the neighborhood and wanted to stop by and see what the fuck was up.
Yeah,
it was a real good meeting place that way.
Yeah,
always inspiring, and John's portfolios were the most humbling portfolios to look at as a young artist.
Yeah. Way back then, even the artists before me that went through there, like Luke Atkinson or Cliff or these, you could really see John's influence. Anyone who went through that shop picked up a bit of that water, and you can see it in everyone's work that was around that. It's kind of a little contagious. I tried not to, but couldn't.
Yeah, when I got tattooed there, when Bill was doing his little stint there, and I got tattooed there, Bill brought out his portfolios and was like, "Look at this!" And it was just that was the main focal point. Was he was pointing out like, "Look at this water,
yeah,
look at this
water and flow,
just everything." Man.
He could do so much with negative space. Like most people have a lot of trouble with negative space, and his tattoos could be a third negative space, but it wasn't just useless space. It was integral to that tattoo. It made it better.
Yeah, no,
you don't see that very often.
Yeah. He taught us a lot about flow, and also, of course, using the planes of the body, like a whirlwind coming out onto the ball of the shoulder, or even if it was a portrait or something, like using the planes of the body for the tattoo to come out and step back, and that was pretty cool stuff. And I mean, he's known for that, but also John's cats he did incredible wildlife. He did everything, right?
Yeah. That panther is still my favorite flash piece.
It is.
That thing's been copied by everybody.
Probably the most famous piece of all time. But yeah, he would actually freehand cats. Like he freehanded a cat on a guy's trap with the spine of the cat. I know I've mentioned this before. The spine of the cat of his trap was the cat, and it went down his arm. Or another one where the paw would come out on the arm when it really would reach out on the arm. And he'd freehand that stuff, which is it's hard to do, right? It's hard to freehand a cat or any animal. For that matter,
and he would do that with a toothpick, dipping it in ink.
John used a brush. He painted. He was a bit of a painter.
Oh, okay.
He painted that on.
Yeah. Maybe it was Dustin that used the toothpick.
I used the toothpick, and I learned that from Bill Baker at Sacred Heart. And I still have a drawer full of toothpicks. It's the only way.
Yeah.
I should send you some alpha markers.
Yeah.
Don't try and change him now.
What's that? No.
Don't try and change the guy now.
No, I'm not. I wouldn't change it. Well, you know what the toothpicks are for? The toothpicks are for when you're drawing after the skin's broken, right? Because you don't want to use a jiffy marker on blood and then you got to throw it in the garbage, right? So the toothpicks are a way to be able to draw in the middle of a tattoo and not contaminate a pen. So, and I do that, basically halfway through any tattoo, I'm like, I'm going to change this right now. I know this should go here. I'm still drawing it. It's still being drawn right to the end of the tattoo.
Oh, that's amazing. You have a fascinating process. How much of that is instinctual and how much of that comes from working at Dutchie's?
That process is instinctual, where a tattoo is never done, and eventually the customer's like, no, fuck, we're done. Yeah, that didn't come from Dutchie.
I'm not coming back anymore.
That's me. Yeah. No, I think a lot of customers don't like that. Like, I'll come back in for another little touch-up session, and we go over everything.
Well, for those who haven't witnessed it, you can see pictures behind me. Rob definitely stencils stuff on, but he will draw and continually rehash what is going on in the tattoo and the direction it's going from day one right to the last
The
session.
stencil is always
whatever
just
that
a
could be.
suggestion.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Even if it's lettering, even if it's a simple word, it could change.
You know, a lot of artists.
It's usually a misspelling.
Yeah. Okay. If I can.
A lot of artists though, they would draw on like Japanese stuff or stuff that's pretty simple, but how complex your stuff is, it's hard to fathom how you first of all envision it and then how you draw it on, because this stuff is so multi-layered. Like most people's stuff might have 3 or 6 layers, but your stuff is, you feel like you can put your finger into stuff and through stuff.
And by layers, you mean lapse of color over. Another complaint I've heard about myself. Like, I tattooed your neck, Dave. How many layers of blue did it take for me to do a blue lotus?
No. I limited that. I said right at the beginning, I was like, you have a 2.5 hour time limit. I know you want to put highlight on the highlights, but we're going to. I'd heard about how long it took you to tattoo Clint's neck, and that was one word.
Yeah.
I was like, there's no way that's going to happen.
It was at a convention, so fuck.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember working on my reworking my arm for me, Rob?
Yeah, that big new school snake.
He reworked my arm, and he worked on it for so long that I just fell asleep. And I literally woke up in the shop, and everybody was gone. My arm was bandaged.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I think I got 6 laps in that day.
Oh, fuck. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, good times.
That's what happens when you party too much and then you get tattooed.
On that note with the lettering, just to do a little hold fast takeover, what were your guys' first or worst mistakes? This is what people want to hear.
Oh,
right?
Nautical stars coloring in the wrong side.
And also, because I went through it once, I made one mistake. How do you deal with it, right? That's, I think, a lot of people, if there's young people watching, you're going to make your first mistake. How do you, that's a fun thing to talk about. Started, Dave, what was your first mistake? How'd you deal with it?
Nautical star coloring the wrong side.
Yeah.
And I can still feel the sweat and panic that engulfed me. And
there's no fixing it. There's no way out of that. There's no way out of that.
Well, I was like, it would look really good. Luckily, the client was like, it was on their back, and I was like, it would be really cool if we shaded these, and made them look more three-dimensional.
So you did a black mark.
I was like, you
did a black mark to the corner of the white side, and you were able to shade it out, make it look even better.
So I lucked out. Dustin, though, he taught me, because you make mistakes for so long. He was like, when you make a mistake, just take a break. Just catch your breath. Don't try to panic fix it, because you'll make it worse. You'll just sometimes you'll just keep continuing to do the fucking stupid thing over. So take a break. Look at how you can change it. Because he had told me a story about tattooing this big jock tribal on this guy and tattooing outside the tribal.
Oh shit!
And he said, I took a break and I realized I could draw another section on it. I can fix it, but
yeah.
I got a tattoo on my leg from when we were teaching Dave Green how to tattoo, and I was trying to tell him the same. If you do a bad line, just continue on. Don't try and fix it until the anxiety comes down.
Oh.
There's one side of the heart that he was doing. He did a little sacred heart on me, and there's one side of it where you can see 12 individual lines. Because every time he tried to fix it, he'd fucking tattoo beside it, and then he'd do it again, and then he'd do it again, and I'm just like, dude, just move the fuck on. And he just, he had to try and fix it, and I'm just like, yeah, you just made it so much better.
You know why that's funny? It's because we've all done it.
Yeah. No, that sounds like digging a hole.
Michael Johnson's first mistake also was nautical stars. I walked in on him when he was tattooing, and I was like, why aren't your nautical stars marked? Oh, no, it's cool. I got it.
Oh, great.
I saw him walk away. Not even 20 minutes later, he walks by me white as a ghost.
Yes.
Colored the wrong side. And he's like, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, well, luckily it's the back of the arm. Told him, just pound in water on that black, have him pick the scab, do the other side black, and then when it heals, go back in and do that side. Because they were going to be like black and all of them were going to be like black plus a color. I was like, just make that one black and like dark blue.
Yeah.
So he was able to do that. But same thing. Always mark the right side of the fucking stencil, people.
Yeah. And also, like, my worst one, I've done a few. My worst one, of course, was the 9-legged octopus. Did a couple 7s. I've done some 7s, no problem, right? Had one on, but 9-legged octopus. And the tough part is, I mean, how did you tell your client? How do you deal with your client? Because there's a point when you colored in that star where you're like, hey, Teresa, I colored in the wrong side.
Yeah.
Or do you brush it under the rug like, hey, why don't we shade this?
Cool idea. Why don't we shade this?
Yeah. So my worst would have been, I was actually working at Six Skill Tattoo with Piot and Louise that you mentioned from Dutchman's. And this guy, super nice guy, he wanted Peaceful Warrior down his rib, just in big block letters. I was like, cool, man.
So you did it on purpose.
Out on the computer.
Just yoga.
Handed to him, and it was right. But then he got me to change the text. And I was like, okay, so I changed it, type it out. He's like, yeah, it's good. We make it big. Put the stencil on. It's later in the day. I tattoo the whole thing, and it's big, solid black letters. The next day I get to the shop, and I didn't tear down before I left. And I look, and as soon as I look at the garbage can, the phone rings, and I see the stencil, and it's Peckful Warrior. I forgot the E after the C. And I answer the phone, and it's the guy. And he's like, hey, man. And I'm like, dude, I spelled your fucking tattoo wrong.
But he didn't know. Bandage is still on.
Yeah, and it's just like, I'm just like, dude, I don't know what to say. And I'm like, come down to the shop. We'll figure this out. And Piot, he was going to be getting tattooed by Piot. And Piot was doing a big arbutus tree on him. I was going to be doing a big arbutus tree on him. And Piot came in and he saw it. And he was like, I'll just put the arbutus tree on that side of your ribs. And the guy was like, okay. So Piot managed to cover that somehow.
Wow.
And we redid Peaceful Warrior properly on him again.
Wow.
But that was like horrifying. Because also I had not tattooed for like 18 and a bit months or whatever, because I was getting clean and I was like living in Squamish, and then I moved to the Sunshine Coast. I didn't really know Piot. I didn't know Louise, and here I am doing this huge fucking tattoo in this small community, and it's spelled wrong.
And it never really happens too when you're like overconfident. Like you're like,
guy though, like seriously, like to the nicest guy. Like he was so just like he right off the. I was like, dude, I'm so sorry, man. Like I don't even know what to say. Like as far as I know, I've never spelled anything wrong. I've made fun of people over the years that have made spelling mistakes.
Yeah.
And he was seriously like, oh man, you know what? It's partially my fault too. I looked in the mirror and didn't catch it. I looked at the stencil and I'm like,
they don't. Right? They're looking at it backwards. It's like,
yeah, right. So I'm just like, yeah. So yeah, that was my worst one. And then I'm not joking. Over the next year, I probably spelled 6 things wrong.
Oh Jesus! This is what I want to get into. My octopus guy,
kanji. I put kanji on backwards.
Octopus guy was nice
3 times.
Well, you know what they say? It's always the customer's fault. It is. You don't speak Cantonese or Japanese. Like it's like we've all done that for sure.
Oh fuck.
Anyways, octopus guy. That was Dutchman at the small shop, and it's like 6 people and Dutchman's in there, and that was a regular blue ring octopus. But at the last minute, the clients were like, "Oh, make it an armband." So I ended up kind of racing and making a couple tentacles go around the arm. And we were halfway through the tattoo, and he joked around like, imagine it had 13 tentacles. And we're laughing, and I just did a little count, and it was like fucking 9. And like you said, Dave, like white. First you turn white, and I just like smeared some ink over there and pretend that's not happening. How am I fucking dealing with this? And yeah, you go from white, you go red, you start sweating, then you go green. And in the end, I was like, he smoked, I think. And I thought, I'm going to grab a chocolate bar, man. Why don't you, because the room's full of people. I couldn't say it in the room with everyone there. And yeah, we went outside, and on the way back, I'm like, man, I think we got 9 legs there. And we did. But luckily, I just wash lined the other guy. And he talked about one day adding water around it. And so we stayed late that night. Added water, covered it up, and yeah, Jason, if you're out there, I'd love to do a touch up on it. I'm sure it may have peeked through, but. And then kanji, yeah, I did see once the map of Canada go on backwards, and the customer looks in the mirror. The customer looks in the mirror, and they're like, "Cool,"
and it looks right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Rob, do you want to do me a favor and move to your left a touch?
Left.
Okay.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, that's better. I just see it. Yeah, that's totally see.
That's why I got rid of my rolly chair, so because I always start like leaning.
Right. Yeah.
I'm like
Falling asleep.
regular chair. Yeah.
Are you in a closet again, Sean? Like you seem to always end up in a closet.
No, man, I'm in my drawing room at the shop.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, I'm out of the closet, homie.
You're fully in the closet.
You can't see it, but I'm wearing my teal pants for you today.
Oh, nice.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's like a tattooer faux pas. Oh, shit, that reminds me. Rob and I worked at Craftsman, and we shared a station when he would come and work like once a week or once every 2 weeks. And it was hijinks. We played pranks all the time. But we had sweatpants. Was it sweatpants Saturdays or something? We wore sweatpants.
And you wore white.
And I wore white sweatpants. And I'm at the counter, and he walks up behind me and goes to squirt some purple on me, and the cap wasn't on. So he's unloaded a whole bottle of purple onto my fucking pants in the lobby at Craftsman.
I think there's a picture of that on Instagram.
You guys went crazy.
Oh, fuck. I'm sure he loved it.
Oh, yeah.
We had a great time. Yeah.
Although he wasn't there. He wasn't there for the big pranks.
Oh, yeah, I filled Rob's station with peanuts. I have that video somewhere of the styrofoam peanuts. Remember? Yeah. You open the styrofoam peanuts, they're going flying as he tries to close it real quick. Yeah.
And you almost got me with the creep binoculars. Because the shop was on the beach, right? So sometimes maybe you'd go do some bird watching. And yeah, Dave pasted it with ink. So you're like,
oh, fuck. Oh, that was so fun, that shot.
That was a good one.
Yeah. My favorite was working with Rob at Sacred Heart, and by the end of the day, it would just be ink on his face.
Yeah.
Because he'd be tattooing, and then you'd start thinking, you'd always get your little squirrel finger.
Yeah, right.
And then remember you had your gloves on after the fact.
Yeah. You know, I had to learn a lot there as far as being clean goes, coming out of the bush, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And good shop to go to too, because I'm remembering that, like when I got tattooed at a shop downtown when I was like 17, you know, you go to the shop that you think you won't get ID'd at. You can probably guess which one. But I remember, I honestly remember the tubes just sitting on the autoclave tray on the counter. There was no packaging, no nothing. I remember other guys just having their tubes in a fishing tackle box. No packaging, anything, right? And that's where Sacred Heart, like Adam was way ahead. Everything was packaged. Everything was checked. He was like super clean. So it was good to walk into that environment. But I had a lot to learn. I do remember couldn't hit the garbage can with a bloody paper towel if my life depended on it. You know, it was like a sea of ink-covered rags. And it was pretty gross for sure.
Were you there? Were you there when Dave almost burnt down Sacred Heart?
No.
Oh, okay, we'll have to get someone else to tell that story. I wasn't there, but it was.
I was there when Rob pepper sprayed the shop.
Who did?
You remember doing
this? Is what I want to hear. No, I do not.
So you remember at Sacred Heart, it had the high heat fan. It didn't have like a full HVAC system. And it was in the back room where Adam still had like the round table needle making and all that kind of stuff. And there was like this little black container. Like, oh, what's this? And you like. And go, and you're just like, and it got sucked up into the fan and shot out into the shop.
That's how you leave an impression. That's funny. Should have done that.
Before anybody could even say anything, it was all of a sudden everybody in the shop is just like, what's happening? What's happening? Rob's running out the back door like, spray!
Oh, that's funny.
Oh, fuck.
Oh, man. That was better than the time Bill was working on my back and Adam Sky was in town visiting. because of course at this point he was no longer at Sacred Heart, and he had just got his brand new TL 1000 Suzuki.
Oh yeah.
He came in and said hi, and then as he left, he backed his tire right into the shop and just did the biggest burnout.
Really?
Filled the fucking whole shop with black smoke, and Bill's trying to touch him. My back's just like,
wow. I didn't know you had a TL 1000. That's a pretty sick bike to do a burnout in the shop with, man. That's wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. He had that before he switched over to the Ducati Love.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, there was lots of hijinks at Sacred Heart, man. You gluing change down on the sidewalk outside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that led to stools. I remember, I don't know whose butt we glued to the stool, but once the super glue kicked in, it actually started to burn. I think it was Glenn. He jumped up. He jumped up like something was biting his ass, but it was actually the chair stuck. Not everyone thought the jokes were funny. That's a tough thing, right? You got to lose the crowd.
Everybody thought they were funny until they were happening to them.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right? Like, everything was funny until you became the joke.
Yeah.
Right? And then you get the butthurt person.
Yeah.
Well, in that case, literally butthurt. So.
That's funny, yeah.
Oh, my God.
I want to get back to Dutchies here, and I'm curious, what's the one thing you might have learned there that you still carry with you today?
Sorry, what was that?
What would be one of the one things you learned at Dutchies that you would still carry with you today? A piece of advice that maybe John passed on, or something that still guides you in your career.
I don't know. He would sit down. He would show up, and his customer would be waiting, and he would sit down and help you with your drawing for an hour. Like he'd sit down and do a layover and give honest criticism. That was cool. But I guess maybe what I would have taken from John, not necessarily advice, but he had a balance. Like we're all working like chickens with our heads cut off. He had a real balance with life, between tattooing and life. Always showed up on time, was calm, like he really had a balance in life that I'm still trying to figure out today. It's always extremely.
I was about to ask, when are you going to enact it?
Yeah. So yeah, I'd say that I still kind of strive to try not to work 12 hours this day and then 4 hours that day and then race to get drawing done for that day. Like you can plan it out and actually run smoothly, probably save you a few years in the end.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
You seem to have a pretty good life balance. So you've got the property with the barn and the big half pipe in there, the basketball court, an area to paint. You got the property is, I wish people could see it. It's fascinating. 5 acres and on the West Coast, and it's got all kinds of trails through it and ponds that you've built using old hot tubs and old bathtubs and shit like that, and little creeks you've created, and bears and owls, and
it's a nice place to hang out. But I don't think it helps. It does help in its moments, but it's like right now I have to draw a back piece for this week, but also March I have to get a couple cords of wood split for next fall. And then pretty soon, all the blackberries and all the other stuff comes. Like there's a lot of work that you got to do that's dictated by seasons living out there. So it's right now, it's super sunny this weekend. It's like, holy shit, it's spring, it's summer. And that's like, oh, fuck, here we go. I got a lot of work to do coming up, as well as tattooing. Yeah. But it's, of course, nice to go and deflate there at the end of the day.
Do you still skate?
The answer is going to be no. I physically stopped skateboarding and mountain biking. Just because
too
dangerous, too many
injuries.
Now we ride a motorcycle at 200K into a hairpin corner with a couple other guys, and seems a little safer for some reason.
Oh, you are so crazy!
But you got gear on though, right? You got gear. You got leather pants. And as you guys know, once you got leather pants on, you are invincible. So
no.
As long as you got your leather pants on. Doesn't matter if you're at the club. It doesn't matter where you are.
No. See, you're bullshitting. Like, I can remember staying at your house years ago and me driving down the highway ahead of you, be like, I'll catch up to you. And I'm driving down in my truck doing like 100 on the highway. I always look at my mirrors and
kilometers?
Stuff. It's unclear in it. Yeah, 100 kilometers an hour. I drive along, and then I go to shoulder check to look at my mirror again, and Rob's going by me 200 plus kilometers an hour. I didn't see him come from where he was coming from, and he was gone as quickly as he was there. It scared the shit out of me.
I don't do that. I did that just for you. I don't do that.
Your face was like on my window basically when you went by. You were so close. I look and I'm like, ah.
God. Have that rocket ship, Rob, or what are you riding now?
I have like a GSXR 750 for the track, and then just a Triumph Speed Triple for booting around town. But we're slow enough. I'm kind of new to that stuff, just the last 4 or 5 years. But it takes you off the street, Once you hit the track, you're not playing with telephone poles, oncoming traffics. We got beavers, You're very likely to hit a beaver on the flats at Silverdale. It's just. And also, when you do a full track day, which is physically almost and mentally impossible, you don't even want to ride your bike for a couple of weeks after that. It's like gets you out,
What track are you riding at?
We have there's a little track here in Mission, but mostly we try and get up to there's like a world class track in Oliver, Area 27, which is 19 corners, 4.7K, elevation changes, corkscrew. It's a real playground. Yeah, nice. It's pretty cool. And there's a good one on the island too. The Vancouver Island Motor Circuit's really fun too.
And there's always that Duffy Highway course that you guys do, and then there's the one on the island that goes from Tofino to Port Alberni. Yeah. You and Mish ripping on those tracks, tracks.
Yeah, we don't do it much anymore because we've all, you get in trouble a few times. You get your bike impounded, and it's just expensive, and you gotta dangerous. So yeah, we don't really do it. We're growing up. We're slowly growing up with it.
What was that fucking insane bike you had when you worked at Craftsman?
Oh, was that the Aprilia?
No,
the Aprilia.
I thought you were talking about the 79 KZ 1300. That big old 6-cylinder inline 6-cylinder engine. That was a fun one.
That thing was a beast.
Yeah.
I just remember you saying I'm not sure which one it was, but I remember saying I think I might have to sell that one. I go too fast on it.
Yeah. The Aprilia. That was a fun bike. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Oh, man. So how long? Let's go back to some tattoo shit. How long were you at Dutchman's for?
Almost 13 years. 1996 to 2009.
Wow, that's insane.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great place to work. In the end, it was just that, the drive was so long for so many years that it was, it kind of had to stop. And, John always was like, make sure to spend time with your family. We both had older dads at the time, and he was always kind of adamant about that. And in the end, my kids, I'd wake up in the morning, say goodbye, come home, they'd already be in bed every day. My family was born while I was at Dutchman. And until 12 years old, I think Ben was 12 when it was like, holy shit, they're about to become delinquent teenagers. I should be around a little bit more. And 2 hours, a couple hours a day, traveling time being spent at home and for drying was huge. That was a valuable time to get back.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
No kidding.
But 13 years went by quickly, and it was great. It was pretty cool. And a neat dynamic, too, with working there was up till then, most tattooers never stayed in one spot for more than a year, if months, Everybody was quite transient, vagrant. And at Dutchman, we bought houses through there, like Clint as well, house, shop, everyone. We were there and settled down and everyone stayed for years.
Yeah,
so it became a pretty cool family there.
It always seemed like that was a shop that you didn't just learn to tattoo, but you learned to be a professional, in every aspect, invest your money, look after yourself.
Exactly.
And the only other shop I can think of that was like that was Smiling Buddha.
Right.
Look after your finances, look after your work, take care of your family and look after you.
They're really helpful there in regards to that. Really helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, I think tattooers nowadays are a little bit more on their finances and stuff like that. Younger tattooers, they all seem to have the goal of buying a house and doing that kind of stuff. But when I got into tattooing, most of us were just like, fuck it. Let's save some money, but I want to have as much fun as fucking possible.
I got $200 in my pocket today. Let's go. Just run.
Yeah. If I go to the bar and spend half of this, I can probably meet enough clients to make enough money tomorrow to double this. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. I'm going to double my money by going to the bar. Which is,
I don't even think I had a bank account. I don't even think I had a bank account in the 90s.
Right. Yeah. That's how it was. That's kind of how it was.
Cash, and then just hitting the bar, hitting a good restaurant, and then hitting the clubs and the bars. Like that was the money,
Yeah. Every time I moved to a new city and started a new shop, I'd find the best little pub, the best little restaurant, and I would go every fucking day and just befriend the bartenders and the servers, kitchen staff, fucking tattoo them. Within a month, I'd have clientele. It was just like this is the way to do it. But I spend like half my wage in a fucking bar and a restaurant every day. Like Uli's in White Rock was fucking ridiculous. Like I built a clientele by going just there, but I also spent obscene amount of money on and got fat at the same time by just drinking.
That was rich.
Drinks
that was
and
rich place.
Food. Yeah, that was.
I'd come in guest spot there, and I'd leave with no money because we'd eat at Uli's every day.
Right. Right.
Oh fuck! I remember going into Uli's one day at 11 in the morning just for a quick brunch, and I was like trying to get out of there quick. And bartender's like, "Do you want to drink?" And I'm like, "No, I'm trying to get out of here quick. I got shit to do." And before I know it, I get the stab in the ribs from one of the other regulars. And he sits down beside me. He's like, "Tattoo Dave, let's have a drink." And I was like, fuck, here we go. Okay, one drink.
Wow.
I got out of there at 11 o'clock at night. I was there for 12 hours with that same guy and other regulars coming in. It was like, ridiculous.
Wow.
Yeah. Young tattooers shouldn't do that. Don't do that.
Don't do that.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Me and Andrea Hart shut down Uli's one night, and then I forget the bartender's name, your buddy.
Dave Fisher.
Gave us some bottles of wine. So then we just Uli's was closed. So then we just went to the pier, just straight bottle drinking. We both have to tattoo the next day.
That's funny.
Speaking of guest spots, Rob, have you done many guest spots?
I did. Like after I left Dutchman, that was like getting out of any long-term relationship. I went everywhere. I slutted out and went to every shop I could. I also didn't have anywhere to work with too, right? So it was kind of like, I had a little private studio going, but that was kind of like, a little under the table. So it was like, I'm going to get out. And I worked with Dave Shore for a few weeks. That was super awesome working with Dave Shore. I worked at Clint's. I worked at Fat City with Rick. I went to quite a few shops. Dave Shore's was awesome. And one story about there, which was really cool. I know apprentices kind of don't exist anymore. Maybe he was the last one, but when Gordy was learning to tattoo or had been tattooing, Dave Shore gave him a needle making seminar there in the back, which I got to be part of. I was tattooing Gordy's chest at Dragon Tattoo. And beforehand, Dave gave him a seminar on making needles, and Gordy made his first needles, and we threw it in the autoclave, and I tattooed his chest with it all day. Just great story. Like he made a good needle. His first needle worked. So
sweet.
Yeah, the guest spots. It was pretty cool to check out. Lady Luck in Langley, of course. I'm always stoked to go over and hang out with Mike because we've been friends for decades. Like basically started out together, and then in the end, here I am working at his shop. It was like a full circle.
Yeah, you guys have a long history. You're both from Maple Ridge, is that correct?
Nope. I'm from Maple Ridge. Mike is from what we call the other side of the river, the other side of the Langley. Mike was from Langley. Mike and Donovan, back in the late 80s, early 90s, were also skateboarders. And back then, of course, it was like, if there's another guy on the other side of the river that skateboards, they're your friend automatically. Right? So there used to be a little ferry, and we'd go out and hang out with those guys, and we became friends, of course. And neither of us tattooed back then. And now here we are. It's kind of like a funny thing. We followed the same paths, just divided by a river.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
So you weren't joking about a little ferry?
No.
That's not.
Yeah, no, there was a little ferry
that's not nice to say about
free. It was cool.
Mike's not a little fairy.
He's not really that little either.
No,
No.
no.
It's not very
Massive,
tall.
massive heart. Massive heart.
Massive heart. Yeah, his heart's taller than he is. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
He's
But yeah,
gold,
that's
that
the
guy.
best, teasing him about his height, and then he'd look at me and be like, "Bitch, you're not much taller than me," and it's like, "But I'm taller."
Yeah. That's when you do when you're
awesome.
taller, right? You bump the next guy down.
Totally.
Yeah. Did you travel and do any guest spots outside of BC? Ever in your career?
Yeah, just in the beginning, you know, of course, the first Toronto convention, unbelievable.
Oh,
And then after that, also
did that.
super fun was the first Saskatoon convention. I mean, I met Ryan Halter there, Jesse Young, like everyone was there. Everyone that we could possibly be talking about was at those two conventions. And Regina after that. I also went to Germany, I think 2001, and I met Tattoo Shoney through the Dutchman. He was running the convention, and he just gave me a booth beside him. So I got to work Munich, just put up some pages of my sketchbook and tattooed my wife, and a lot of tribal in Germany back in the day. So you could really, if you could speak tribal, you were tattooing.
Nice.
So yeah, and that's about it. I did a handful of conventions, of course, the Vancouver ones, and then that was it for me. And then maybe one a year. Deadly Tattoo Convention just happened. That was amazing. That was a real reunion.
Yeah,
and a weird one.
It was nice to
It was weird.
look over and see it.
Yeah, it was a weird one because I think I did Calgary 5 years before, so nothing for 10 years. And then Deadly was like a 10-year gap between seeing, you know, Brett Schmidt or Sean Treble or a lot of these guys that I hadn't seen forever. And it's funny how different we look, actually, some of us. It's like Sean was full wizard mode, like holy, like full beard down to there. Yeah, it's quite interesting to see that. We are getting out there. The end is near.
Yeah, that convention was a lot of fun, man. It was really good to see you there and see a lot of people there. It was a super good time.
Yeah.
When I first was told you were going, I'm like, no, he's not. Yeah, Rob's doing it. I'm like, I don't think so. No, he won't show up. I mean, Mike Pryor was like, he might not show.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot Winnipeg with Rich Hanford. The first Winnipeg, probably one of the best conventions. Yeah. The best host I think I've ever had at a convention. Of the few I've been to, that Winnipeg convention was unbelievably amazing. That was so cool.
Yeah, Rich has always been a great host.
I mean, you're drinking on a ship in a museum. Like, what the heck? It was incredible. There's so many cool events that he had planned for everybody.
Oh, that's cool.
That was pretty cool. That was pretty cool.
Hey, I know you have a bunch of notes in front of you.
No, you know what? I have some notes, but I don't have my glasses. I can't read any. It's pointless. Yeah.
Oh, where are your glasses in the shop here? I can bring them to you.
There you guys are.
I could see you squinting the whole time.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. That's quite incredible.
That's hilarious. Oh, I don't have them.
Yeah. Hey, there they are. No, honestly. Yeah, there they are. Cool.
Yeah.
I
know you have a bunch of notes. Let's. What did you want to talk about?
I forgot about Trevor Shea and Leo when I came to Dutchman. Sorry, guys, but I can read the list now. Other than that, I kind of got everybody. You know.
Nice.
Yeah. Other than that, I mean, kind of like we've all been tattooing a long time, and sometimes, you know, like I've used every possible man angel combination I can do. You know, you kind of get like, how can you keep progressing? And sometimes I think like I remember when Anthony Tex started tattooing, and in 2 years, that guy's work was like, holy fuck, right? He went from just starting to being like, oh, almost like his dad kind of. And so I think of that, and I think like, realistically, we are going to be here at least another 10, 15, maybe we even got maybe 20 years of tattooing left. So I like to think of things like that as far as inspiration goes. Like, you could do a lot in 2 years if you really want to buckle down, right? Like what Dave Shore was like 77, I think. Brian Zuck is still going, I think.
Yeah, no, Dave was 71 or 72.
Right. And Brian Zuck's just closed the course, but he's tattooed, and he still tattoos sometimes. So we still got quite a few years, and it makes me think like it changed so much since those shows. It's changed so much in the last 5 years alone. Like, what is it going to be in 20 years?
Right.
What do you think the next trend in tattooing is going to be?
I think the next trend in tattooing going to be, especially with all the AI bullshit that's going on, I think the next trend is going to be getting tattoos from someone that draws it by hand with pencil and puts a stencil. You know, I'm thinking the next trend is going to be this guy draws his stuff on. I hope. Anyways.
I've seen a couple of those guys floating around on Instagram. Hopefully they get popular.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. Might be the
or
odd guy.
extinct. Who knows? But yeah, no, I already did the rotary battery thing, 30 years ago, so I'm over that.
Yeah.
No, just joking. And what is thing that is really surprising is that tattooing, in a field when you're 16, that was to my parents like your only future is prison. It's amazing to me for any of us that this became actually a way that you could make a living and buy a house, and actually it became a career.
Yeah.
Did you ever spend any time in jail?
No. Hey. Did some of my best. Yeah. Yeah. No.
Let that inside joke go.
Did you ever have any
summer camp? I went to a summer camp. Let's say.
Went to summer camp. Yeah.
I went to summer camp.
Yeah. Was gifted some government jewelry like anklets and stuff.
Yeah. I've done a little bit of everything.
How long were you in 10-foot pole for?
10 feet tall.
Going back to the band.
10 feet tall. We were 10 feet tall. I don't know. I think it maybe was like a 5-year thing, maybe.
Yeah. You guys were a thing though on the scene, the local punk scene. You guys were a big band.
I think we were like every other local band. We were just, we had a couple demo tapes. Everybody was super motivated and doing their own thing, right? The all ages punk scene was full do it yourself back then, making your own t-shirt. Like we still doing their own t-shirts. Everyone did that and put on shows back then. So we were kind of at that level. We had a couple lucky shows, we got to, as I say to every young kid, we got to open for Green Day a couple times and Fugazi, and those were great shows.
Rad.
Yeah.
How much influence do you think the punk scene had on tattooing in Vancouver? You must have seen a direct correlation between the people you were tattooing because of the scene you're in and being a tattooer.
I thought about that before this, and obviously punk and metal as far as an influence in art, of course, because you have those album covers and you have all those anagrams and things. And also I was thinking like the old tattooers, when we came in, must have been like, what the fuck is with all these skateboards? Because it kind of, not just punk, but skateboarding also just kind of like puked its way into tattooing overnight, kind of, right? So yeah, I thought about that, and I think skateboarding and punk rock, like bikers before us, were kind of like a little bit on the outcast of society and didn't care, and we're like, fuck it, I'll tattoo my arm, which was extreme back then. To have a sleeve was a big deal.
Yeah. I never thought of it before about the bikers being outsiders and the punk rockers being outsiders, just generationally different. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing.
Generationally different, same exact thing. And that's why eventually the two had to marry together, right?
Yeah, that's fascinating. It's funny that all those punk kids and skate kids now ride Harleys.
Yeah.
Like all our friends that are from that era, they all bought bikes. Like they're all bikers now.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, lucky for Harley, that became it's kind of hipster, right? Is that the right word? No offense to anyone.
Sure. Yeah, we can use that.
I think Harley capitalized on that pretty good, and that's cool. But the thing with the guys, if there's hipsters out there that ride Harleys now, they actually all work on their bikes. They actually are a really serious scene, and it's great for
totally.
for Harley, great for bikes. Everyone's actually really into it, so wouldn't knock that, but. They're not the same bikers, the bikers from before, though, right? Those bikers must be like, fucking, why is everyone waving to each other? Even the Harley guys are waving now, right? Sure, it pisses them off. It must piss them off.
Oh, fuck.
The good old low two fingers. Hey.
Yeah. But now it's like, hey. and there'll be 20 people all waving. You're like, okay, this is a little much now. Come on. Yeah.
Awesome. Dave, show us some of his goddamn work.
Oh.
I can try moving the laptop here. I don't have any on the computer.
That's nice.
He gave me stuff today.
We don't need to see anything. Let's just keep it a mystery.
Yeah.
I don't think you can see anything there. I think it's all blurry.
A pencil sharpener. You don't see that in many tattoo shops anymore.
Really?
Yeah.
Just for young people watching, that's a pencil sharpener.
How do they sharpen their pencils?
I've drawn a
jackknife.
I don't have a pencil sharpener either. I have tattoo with it.
Yeah, I'm a modern guy. I have a pencil sharpener, photocopier.
Yeah, that pencil sharpener looks like it's straight out of fucking early 2000s.
Thermofax. People still use a thermofax, don't they? That is. I have Dave Shore's thermofax there from you, Dave, through you. Yeah. So.
Oh, crazy!
Still running.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish I had a thermofax.
What are you using?
Some crap.
The fax machine?
Stencils. Huh?
You using the fax machine thing still?
Yeah. Yeah. It's really good, but it just wastes so much paper.
Yes.
Yeah, but I guess there's Good Guy has those new ones now, the Tim or whatever, and they're getting
just check that out.
Reviews, so I'm going to be ordering those finally.
Nice.
I just all my scraps in a box, and I'm mailing them all to Mike Pryor.
Right.
Because he will use every little piece. But he would send me pictures of the smallest piece, and he made a stencil on it, and I'd be like, yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
It's amazing though that 40, 50-year-old machines are still kind of better than new stuff today, right? I'm praying for things to not die and hope technology catches up to what they were doing in schools in the 70s there. It's those things are, they're I think they're worth more now than when they were sold in the beginning.
100%. Well, there's a guy, I believe he's in Seattle, that refurbishes those 3Ms, and they sell for over $3,000 US.
Holy.
Thermofax Dave, I think he is on Facebook.
Yeah, $3,000 to $5,000 for a thermofax.
But you're getting a brand new machine though.
It
works perfect. It's not, you don't have to fucking play with the dial every time to fucking. It's not finicky like that. It goes from fucking barely making a stencil to being black. It's
How maddening that would be. You do something and you're doing a 2-part stencil. You run your one through, you walk away, some asshole walks over, changes it, does his stencil, then you're like, fuck, I gotta figure out exactly where to put that back.
Yeah.
if the bulb is too warm still. And you fucking run your second copy through and you're like, fuck, I need to turn this down between every copy. It won't go down anymore. It's as down as it's going to go.
You don't, and you just transform this big blob of okay, I'm going to, maybe if I wipe it away, the actual design will be under there. I struggle with that. I wouldn't fix it. Like if I'm doing a guest spot, at another shop, you're not going to get that thermofax down. If it goes off, if you bump it, you're like, that's it.
It's the exact same machine, but humidity levels are different, elevation is different. It's going to work completely different. It's had a whole different life story than the one in your shop.
Rob will just be like, look at the stencil. Oh well, hope I have toothpicks.
I wasn't going to follow it anyways.
Yes. It's just to instill confidence in your client.
They look at it in the mirror and it's like, they can't see what that is. But
like, sure, go for it.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Amazing.
Oh, jinx.
Yeah.
This will be like podcast 6 and we're already saying the same word at the same time.
Yeah.
Oh, and I'm looking. We're at 122. Your time's up, guys. I think we're. That's it.
We turn this off. He's gonna be like, I forgot all this stuff to say.
Okay, we can do a part 2 later on.
Yeah, no, I was done long ago, man. That's it. That's all I got. That's it. I'll see you in 10 years. I'll try and make some stories in the meantime.
Yeah. Are you gonna tattoo with this fucking guy this week at all, Dave?
No, No, I'm tattooing over at Lady Luck just one day. Yeah.
Nice.
I've got, Mike's, tattooing in the new shop. I've done, I think, 1 week since Mike's moved across Langley to the other side of town. And it'd be good to see him and Glenn. Those guys are great. If anyone's in Langley, you should go check that shop out, Lady Luck.
Yeah. Have you worked the day there yet, Rob?
I've worked there tons, and for anybody out there who, especially young people who want to go and do a guest spot, Mike Pryor, he holds the torch of the tradition of tattooing. At this point, he's like the full package of that. And I mean, it's funny, I was thinking, I was just looking at pictures, and Wes Gowley and Brian Zuck came out to say happy anniversary to Glenn. It was his 20-year anniversary, and I got a picture of those guys, and you can't tell which one's the oldest. Like Mike actually Mike looks older than Brian Zuck. Like Mike has taken the torch so much, he's actually become the older wizard to these two iconic guys. It's like
well, you know what? I think his story is really fascinating. His relationship with Brian, and people who don't know, Brian Zuck owned Ace Tattoo in Vancouver, brought up guys like not brought them up, but introduced guys like Dave Shore and Paul Jeffries to tattooing back in the 70s, and he's retired now. And Mike's the guy who's really been nurturing a relationship with Brian and keeping that generational relationship alive, which we don't see much in tattooing anymore, at least not in Canada, because we don't have many old timers left. I think that's a fascinating relationship.
It's cool. And he's giving him a spot. Like he comes in and does tattoo once in a while, right? He's got a spot there anytime he wants, so you can actually could get a tattoo from him even.
Yeah. I know I need to get my spade tattoo by him the next time I'm out for a visit, because I was there for a year and I never got tattooed by him. And then same there for a year, and every time you drop by the shop, me and Mike would be gone, or I had just left.
I know.
You had just left and I just showed up, and it's just
like,
yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, that's such
cool. I guess we won't keep you any longer there, Rob.
Guys, that was fun.
I don't know. You must have something else to talk about. It's only an hour 25.
That is too long, don't you think?
No, people want to.
Usually done it.
People don't ever get to see you. They're like, he's a fucking ghost. So they want to soak everything up.
Yeah, no. I mean, I'm usually done it like 30 seconds on anything now. It's like watching it.
Unless it's about banjos or birds.
Yeah.
Birds and banjos. You got that pretty dialed.
Wood. I like
and wood.
Yeah, like chopping wood.
Yeah.
Chopping wood, building things. That's it. But
all right. Are you doing any conventions this year?
I've got nothing planned. No, with tattooing, just working away here at the studio.
Okay. And if people want to get tattooed by you, how can they get a hold of you?
That's a funny thing because, right? You know what? I've had my regular clients since I left Dutchman, and the book is just full. It's like I could write books closed, but it's just I've not only have like 20 plus years worth of clients, but now I'm tattooing their kids. And every time someone leaves, they put their name back in the book. So it's never like I just knock on wood, haven't ran out or had to take on new clients to the public. I haven't had to go to the public because I just got awesome clients and they keep going. So if you have my number, you can get an appointment. Basically it. But I'd love to do a convention. And if James or Rich or any of those guys, any tattoo conventions happen that were kind of like that, I would do it for sure.
If you were to go back in time and give yourself some advice or advise a younger tattooer, what kind of advice would you give them getting into the industry?
I would 100% say to get some actual mentorship. Like the time that I wasted trying to do it by myself. I mean, in the beginning, I wasn't planning on tattooing. We were just like dirty kids doing it as a joke. But once I got real equipment, that 1 year where I had that and I was trying to learn was just like, I learned more in one day at Sacred Heart. It was such a waste of time and kind of if you're at home trying to learn by yourself, it's such a disservice to yourself and your client to try and figure it out when you're just wasting time. So I would say anybody try and obviously there's YouTube now and there's a lot of good advice there, but getting some actual mentorship under another person would be the way to go. And also it would have to be someone like when we were younger, people got apprenticeships, and that was cool. But slowly, apprentices started leaving in 3 months and then opening their own shop and apprenticing people for money, right? So it started to get really watered down and kind of turned into the blind leading the blind. So I think if anybody can do that, like Gordy coming out and meeting Dave Shore and learning to make needles, I think that's some good advice for any young people, you know?
Yeah,
go to Mike's shop and hang out, or go to Craftsman. Like the guys out there that are running actual traditional tattoo shops, go be part of that. That's the best experience you could have. Because right now it's so easy to just get a thing off Amazon or something and do it, right?
Yeah. And I would say if it's hard, like fucking apply yourself and push yourselves on people, you know, like there's nothing wrong with hanging around and getting tattooed, you know, paying your dues and really trying to create a relationship with someone.
And no one, you know, if anyone tells you can't, like our generation was like, you can't, we'll break your arms. You can't. You can still kind of get around those hurdles, right? But
totally. Final question. Who are your top 5 favorite tattooers?
I was about to write that list when you showed up early today.
I was fucking 2 minutes early.
I know. I thought you said 12.
Really, 2 minutes early.
I thought you said 12. You showed up at 11. I didn't get that. I heard you ask everyone else that, and I was like, oh, fuck, I don't know. I mean, it would be probably someone I just worked with. Going back, way back, I mean, I loved Black and Gray back then, and obviously Jack Rudy and Brian Everett and Walt Bailey, those guys. Walt Bailey, this wildlife shit. But then Paul Booth was like, he has saturated every inch of that tattoo except maybe the shine on the nose. Like the saturation, that really appealed to me. And then, of course, Guy Atchison and Aaron Kane and those guys. Philip Liu, crazy detail, but super bold. You know, all his detail was in areas that weren't integral to the design. And that was like, okay, I gotta need to control the detail into areas where I never have nailed that down. But I'd say those 3 guys. Yeah. And then, of course, the people that you work with, right? Bill Baker, hugely, the Dutchman, and then Trent. Everyone that we work with was, you got something from.
Love it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Anyways, enough about that, I guess.
Thanks, buddy.
Rob, thanks so much, man. It was great having you on.
Yeah, and thanks, because I've gotten into these podcasts and they've been super interesting and amazing. They're totally laid back, you know.
Who do you want to hear from? Who do you want us to interview?
I'd like to see even Chad or even the people from our older generation there. I'd love to see you try and get Bill Baker on here. But obviously, Mike Pryor and Brian Shuck would be pretty cool to see too. And Doug was. They've all been amazing. They've all been amazing so far. Nat and I had the same history. Doug, his was so laid back and cool. It was like that made me think, oh, I want to do this, because that was just a chill, cool session. And it was great. And seeing Luna's work was like, seeing her paintings on Instagram made me realize, like, she's an amazing artist. She could do realism. She could do anything. But she actually has made her tattoo style relevant to tattooing, and it's fucking amazing. Like, sorry, Luna, but I had to zoom right in on every part of her. I'm like, this is so. Is this really this perfect? I had to zoom right in on her work, and it's like, it's fucking amazing. Quite amazing.
I know.
So
I was excited to have her on, man. She's a really good tattooer, like really, really good. So I was excited to hear about her story.
Yeah, a very tattoo-y style, but a super accomplished artist. So I like that about her. And yeah, I'm loving the series that you guys are doing right now. So I'd like to see everybody on there.
Cool. Thanks, man.
And we'll see you in 10 years. Let's do it again in 10 years. See how different we look.
I'm going to see you before that.
When you finally come to Edmonton for a guest spot.
Yeah. If I come to Edmonton, I'm going straight to your shop.
Nice.
Cool.
It was great, buddy. I appreciate it. I'm going to hit stop.
I'm going to pan out. See you guys.